Hey, happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Mike Dreesen. I'm a vice president with Government Technology Magazine. I'm also the publisher for Industry Insider. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to dig into where things stand with the Florida state budget. Before I do that, let me just tell you a little bit more about Industry Insider Florida if you're not familiar with us. So we are a sister publication of Government Technology Magazine, the premier information platform on the smart use of technology in state and local government, which covers the entire US SLED market. Now, Industry Insider Florida is a membership program that provides timely, job-critical content on the Florida GovTech market, written by Florida-based writers with their pulse on the state SLED market. The membership also includes member briefings with key SLED IT leaders. More on that later. So let me introduce our other speaker today, and that's going to be Katia Diaz. She is one of our Florida writers. She's been writing for Industry Insider Florida since we launched it last year. Previously, she served as a staff writer for Government Technology for 2 years. She's been a professional journalist since 2015, has a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's degree in global strategic communications from Florida International University. She currently resides in Orlando, but grew up in Miami, Florida, making her a proud Florida native. So welcome, Katia.
Thanks so much, Mike. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. So Katia did the heavy lifting. I have to admit up front, she read, well, I don't know if she read every word, but she looked at certainly 524 pages and really was pulling out sort of the key IT areas within the budget. And that's what we're going to cover today. This is not about politics. This isn't about any other social programs. This is about where are the technology opportunities in the budget. Those of you that are not familiar with it, we always do a deep dive on state budgets. Once they're done, obviously this one isn't done, but we're at a point where we've got some good, meaty things that we can talk to. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katia, and she's going to start digging into where we are in the process.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. So on March 8th, the state legislature approved a $117.5 billion budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. Prior to this, in December of last year, Governor DeSantis released his budget recommendations totaling $114.4 billion. Based on the legislature's proposed budget, lawmakers are asking for $3 billion more in spending. And once the final budget is signed by Governor DeSantis, the budget will take effect July 1st.
Well, there you go. So we're almost there. And like I said, we have a lot of good stuff. You know, Katia, I think I want to ask you a question right up front. So how does this budget compare to last year?
Sure. Based on our research, Governor DeSantis signed the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget into law on June 15th. And I believe after accounting for $511 billion in vetoes, the General Appropriations Act totaled $116.5 billion, which was really impressive. It signaled a 5.9% increase over the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget of $110 billion.
Wow. Well, that is great to know. So with that, I think we want to go ahead and dig into it. Now, for those of you listening out there, you're wondering if you're going to get a recording and a PDF of all this, and the answer is yes, you will. So I'll save you the time of asking the question. We're going to provide all this to you at the end of the webinar. And if you do have any questions, the chat is open. You can chat to me and Katia. I'll take a look at them as we go. And if we have any questions that we can answer along the way, we will certainly do that. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Katia, to be able to dig into it.
Perfect. So to start, let's take a look at what tech funding has been set aside for the Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration. First on our list is a $101 million for the agency's Children's Medical Services Network and $92 million for the Florida Healthcare Connections FX project. Of note here is that the FX project aims to modernize the agency's overall functions to build better connections to relevant data sources and programs while simultaneously improving healthcare options and outcomes. With that said, other funding allocated for the project includes $25 million for a Unified Operations Center, along with $17 million for Enterprise project services, hardware and software renewals, plus 14 million for enterprise data warehouse and data governance, and 13 million for integration services. Great. Next, we'll take a look at FDOT, or the Florida Department of Transportation. Quite a bit of tech funding was set aside for the agency, including 3 billion for transportation systems development. Other notable figures included 82 million for an electric vehicle grant program, 74 million for IT, 3 million for a data infrastructure modernization project, plus another 3 million for the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged to continue its innovative grant program. Next slide, please. In this slide, we will take a look at tech funding earmarked for the Florida Department of Children and Families. 124 million in funding has been set aside for IT, and other notable tech funding includes 29 million for the Florida Online Recipients Integrated Data Access System, otherwise known by the acronym of Florida. The system supports the information needs of multiple agencies, including the Florida Department of Children and Families. And a couple ways the agency uses this system is for software documentation and resource management. Outside of that, other notable figures include 36 million for the automated community connection to economic self-sufficiency Florida system, and 26 million for the Florida Safe Families Network, and 17 million for a comprehensive child welfare information system modernization project. Next slide. Next up, we have tech funding for criminal justice and corrections. Fun fact, the Florida Department of Corrections is Florida's largest state agency and the third largest state prison system in the country. With that said, 59 million has been set aside for IT, and 17 million has been set aside for the Department of Corrections to procure a deliverables-based cloud-hosted solution to modernize its offender-based information system. Other tech funding includes 10 million for the Department of Juvenile Justice Bureau of Information Technology to potentially conduct a modernization study of the Juvenile Justice Information System. And 3 million will be used to continue the Florida Department of Corrections victim notification system, while 2 million will go towards procuring search and analytics technology to enhance the department's public safety program. Next slide. Here we go. At this slide, we'll take a look at tech funding allocated for agriculture and environmental protection. First up is 26 million for the Office of Agriculture Technology Services. The office serves as the tech arm for the Florida Department of Agriculture, which aims to support and promote state agriculture, protect the environment, safeguard consumers, and ensure the safety and wholesomeness of foods. Other tech funding includes 10 million to procure water quality treatment technologies for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, plus 10 million for the evaluation and implementation of innovative tech, 5 million for moat marine aquaculture technology, and 3 million for the Florida Red Tide Mitigation and Technology Development Initiative. Next slide, please. Department of Management Services. So this is the business arm of Florida's government, with its primary mission being to support state agencies and current and former state employees with workforce and business related functions so they can focus on their core missions. With that said, 337 million has been earmarked for the agency's technology program under telecommunication services in the proposed budget. 35 million has been set aside for the cost of tools and services needed to operate and maintain the state cybersecurity operations center, which oversees the digital assets of partnering entities and identifies and mitigates threats in real time to ensure uninterrupted services. 11 million has been set aside for the department's web-based e-procurement system. 2 million will go towards the statewide travel management system, which supports more than 115,000 government travelers through a cloud-based travel management solution, and 693,000 will go towards operating and maintaining My Florida Marketplace, the state's online purchasing system that connects agencies with more than 100,000 vendors. Next slide. Office of the State CIO. Lastly, in our budget roundup, we will look at the Office of the State CIO, also known as the Florida Digital Service. 46 million has been earmarked for the office overall, with 3 million set aside for IT project oversight, and 1 million of that funding will go towards purchasing independent verification and validation services for all agency staff and vendor work needed to implement an enterprise cybersecurity resiliency program. and to ensure the utilization of best practices and seamless functionality within the enterprise.
Okay, well, that's great. So that gives an overview of where we're seeing some potential IT opportunities. So typically in any legislative session, there's a number of bills that have some IT related content. So Katya, can you walk us through some of those key IT related bills and give us a little bit of an insight into those?
Of course, happy to. To kick things off, let's take a look at House Bill 1555, which looks to revise the mission and goals of Cyber Florida. According to the center's website, the Florida Center for Cybersecurity, also known as Cyber Florida, was created by the state's legislature in 2014 to help Florida become a national leader in cybersecurity education. The University of South Florida in Tampa is the host institution for Cyber Florida and provides administrative, budgetary, and oversight support. HB 1555 is currently under review by the governor, but if it's enacted, it would task the center with conducting funding and facilitating research and applied science to create new technologies and software packages that have military and civilian applications that can be transferred for military and homeland defense purposes or for sale or use in the private sector. Next is House Bill 473. This provides county, municipality, and other political subdivisions of state covered entities or third-party agents that comply with certain requirements to not be liable in connection with cybersecurity incidents. And following that is House Bill 275, which would enforce criminal penalties for improperly tampering with critical infrastructure. This can include electric power generation, transmission, or distribution facilities, or a wireless or wired communications facility. Next slide, please. HB 919 is one of the state's actually only AI policies this session, but what's interesting is that it requires certain political advertisements, electioneering communications, or other miscellaneous advertisements to include a specified disclaimer stating if AI was used in any way to manipulate or generate any advertisements to keep things transparent. Next is Senate Bill 7006, which amends a provision that provides exemptions for public record requirements for information related to the security of certain technology held by a utility owner or operated by a unit of local government. This also could be customer meter derived data or billing information, things like that. Basically, the primary amendment is it extends the repeal date from August 2nd, 2024 to October 2nd, 2027, essentially extending public record exemptions for utilities owned or operated by local governments. And following that is House Bill 135, which provides an exception to a requirement that certain voter registration applicants must be registered without party affiliation and requires the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles to provide an applicant with a certain receipt requiring the department to ensure that information technology processes and updates do not alter certain information without written consent. Next slide, please.
Okay, wow. Well, there's certainly lots of them you're keeping track of. I love that you're breaking it down for us, Katya.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely keeping an eye out on all of these. And to round things out, we're going to end on House Bill 1565, which basically, if they were passed, it'd be updated to say that upon successful completion of science-based laboratory testing of prevention, control, mitigation technologies and approaches, the Florida Red Tide Mitigation Technology Development Initiative would develop recommendations for field trial deployment of technologies and approaches in state waters, basically further organizing the state's approach to addressing red tide. And lastly, to round things out, House Bill 415 would require the Department of Health, in consultation with the Department of Children and Families and the Agency for Healthcare Administration, to maintain a website that provides information and links to certain pregnancy and parenting resources. All of these bills, except for Senate Bill 7006, have been passed, while the other pieces of legislation are still under review. Back to you, Mike.
Wow, that's fantastic. You know, I don't think there's an easy way to track it, but it certainly would be interesting if you could look at the total state budget and say what percent of that is going to IT services. I think this is one of the things that we're seeing across our platforms is a larger percent is going into digital, of course, because there's more digital solutions. So when you look at budget, it's not just the size of the total budget, but how much of that is going into IT solutions and resources. That's a number that's going to continue to increase. So this is an example here of one of the stories on the platform, Industry Insider Florida. It is a membership program, so you have to sign up for it and become a member. And we'll give you an opportunity to do that, of course. But this is the kind of stuff we're covering. So we have two writers. We have one in Tallahassee, Christina, and we have Katya in Orlando. They share the load in terms of covering the entire state. So we are state, local, and education covered. We do tend to do a little bit more on the state side, maybe because there's more dollars there, particularly during this season than some of the other areas. But again, we're trying to cover the entire GovTech and EdTech market across Florida. So the idea of the stories is they're not long. We are trying to be brief and just get you the real data. We're not doing long form. This is very short articles that just give you the meaningful, and everything's about technology, right? This is a different sort of site than a typical media site. It's only about technology and how technology is being used in government. So as soon as this is done and we get approval, Katya, then you're going to get to telling us more details, right? Once it's all approved, maybe you'll give us some final budget breakdowns at that point on your stories, right?
For sure, exactly. Looking forward to it.
Yep, exactly. And then we will do a full briefing as well. Now, earlier I mentioned that part of the membership program is you get to attend member briefings. So we had one earlier this year, and I'm pleased to announce that we have our next one scheduled. This is part of your membership, no additional cost for members to attend. We're going to have a member briefing with the CIOs from the Department of Transportation, that's Glendora Fortune, and the CIO, Susan Whitmire, for the Florida Gaming Control Commission. These are short, these are 1-hour briefings. They come in, we do a moderated panel. I'll moderate it through it. We'll do some Q&A with them, and then we'll do some audience Q&A. And it's a great opportunity for you to meet them, to hear more about their departments, about what they're doing. This will be at AC Hotels in Tallahassee. And, I get great feedback on this. This is a real value add of the membership to be part of this. So please become a member. As long as you become a member by the time we do this briefing, you can join us. If you're already a member, please do join us. There's a lot of value here. We do not video or do transcriptions of these briefings. You've got to be in the room if you want to hear the details. The story we write about it is a very high level summary story. So we look forward to seeing everyone at that opportunity. And then I mentioned earlier, we are part of Government Technology Magazine. Well, another arm is Government Technology Events. So this is not part of Industry Insider, but we want to make sure that everybody knows about our outstanding events. We have really expanded in Florida. So this is a highlight. You've got a QR code that you can get to the landing page. But these are all the upcoming GovTech events. Now, we will be there. Katya or Christina will be at these as well. We will cover them. We've got our first Central Florida Digital Government Summit on April 25th. We've got our, 20-plus year Florida Digital Government Summit in Tallahassee on May 15th. We're going to have a Southern Florida Digital Government Summit coming up in August, TBD. And then we're going to have our Florida Public Sector Cybersecurity Summit. This will be our second year doing it on September 11th in Tallahassee. And finally, we'll end the year with the Florida IT Leadership Forum in Tallahassee on November 20th. So just want to make everyone aware of that. That'll be another important part of what we're doing. And with that, we're going to wrap up today. I want to thank Katya for doing her homework, hopefully saving you time so you didn't have to do the homework. But again, become a member. You can track all of this. We will continue to also have these webinars and give you the information. We're going to be on top of the budget. We're going to show you where the opportunities are. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for your interest. Have a great day. Take care.